Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and this is my show, Wasteland Talks, my weekly talk show where I talk about whatever the hell I want. And this week, I'm doing a new episode of Ranking in honor of finishing my journey of Steven Spielberg overall and Welcome to the Wasteland. So go check out those 37 episodes of Welcome to the Wasteland where we focused on the works of Steven Spielberg. And this time I'm going to go through relatively quickly, ranking from 37 to 1 all of Steven Spielberg's films in my humble opinion. Starting at the bottom is Something Evil. This was a made-for-TV horror film that had some glimpses of some of the impressive skills and directorial traits of Steven Spielberg, but overall was just a pretty disappointing film that had an unsatisfying ending. But does make me think that he probably directed Poltergeist. Just leave it at that. Number 36, 1941. Boy, was this a misfire. This was an ill-advised, just hot mess of a quote-unquote comedy that wasn't very funny, and then was dealing with some really serious real-world things that probably shouldn't have. And boy, was this movie horny, because it kept making so many sexual jokes, and barely any of them were very funny. Number 35, we have Savage, another made-for-TV film starring Martin Landau. And besides Martin Landau, it's pretty blandish kind of investigation thriller. But Martin Landau was good. I enjoyed him in that. My number 34, Always, starring Richard Dreyfuss. This melodramatic fantasy romance, like the first third of this movie I really dug, and then it kind of just spiraled into kind of cheesy, very melodramatic, sappy kind of supernatural romance that was really awkward in many ways. But Dreyfuss was great, Holly Hunter was great, and John Goodman were great. Next up, number 33, The BFG. Not a great adaptation of Roald Dahl's book, but it has endearing and earnest moments throughout it. It has too many fart jokes and way too many slapstick comedy sequences that made this film like an hour and 50 minutes instead of being an hour and 30 minutes, which probably should have been. But you have Mark Rylance, who's amazing. There is magic. The opening act of this film is just full of magic. And there's some wonderful things in it. They overstay their welcome too many places and a little too farty. But that was my 32. Up is Ready Player One. And this doesn't have a whole lot of interesting characters, light on narrative, and light on depth. But boy, is this an amazing thrill ride of a film with incredible special effects and all the wonderful pop culture references that you can possibly find. It is Spielberg, though. My number 31, Indiana Jones and Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. This is not as bad as everybody remembers, but it is definitely low-tier Steven Spielberg, a little too reliant on special effects and immortal Indiana Jones, apparently. But Harrison Ford is great, so is most of the cast, and, you know, I didn't have problems with the alien part. No. But this has its fun moments, it has its exciting moments, it just has nothing on the other films in the series. Next up is Hook. Nostalgia would put this a lot higher, but this is a messy movie. And I love Robin Williams. Robin Williams is great. This was a musical, missing all the music for the most part. You can definitely tell it's supposed to be a musical. Dustin Hoffman, Bob Hoskins, great. Julia Roberts, interesting as Tinkerbell, but this is just a messy movie. Tonally, all over the place. Like, Hook's talking about committing suicide like every 5 minutes, just like, okay, this is a little dark. But I have fun with it, and you just have to just be like, you know, it's not the greatest. Amblin, short film by Steven Spielberg, this wonderful vagabond tale, has so much energy and zeal to it, and really shows that there's a lot in the tank for Steven Spielberg moving forward. It's exciting, jumping off point for him, and it's a fun little bit of a tragic romance, but it's worth checking out. Next up, The Color Purple, aka probably the story that Steven Spielberg shouldn't have told, but Whoopi Goldberg's great in it, Oprah's great in it, Danny Glover's great in it. I don't think that it does justice enough to the abuse and everything that happens in it, but it is a poignant, well-acted, well-crafted film that deals with some heavy issues. I just don't know if this was really Spielberg's story to tell, but it has its merits. Next up, we have at number 27, The Terminal. This is a film I hated when I was a kid because my aunt took me to see it when I wanted to see Shrek 2. My brother wanted to see White Chicks. My aunt's like, we're seeing The Terminal. Hated it. Watched it as an adult. This is very charming. Yeah, it's a bit fluffy and doesn't have the same depth as some of his other films, but Tom Hanks is great and the wonderful supporting cast all around really helps carry this. Stanley Tucci in his antagonistic best. I did enjoy this one quite a bit. At number 26, Empire of the Sun. Another film quite like Color Purple that feels like it has a lot of great potential, but it doesn't always really land. But Christian Bale's amazing as this young kid. John Malkovich is great. It's beautifully well shot. It just doesn't always click, but it does have a lot of great tension and impressive feats about it. Number 26, we have Warhorse. And Warhorse is a sprawling journey following a horse who gets sold off from the farm, goes to World War I, and tries to make his way all the way back home to his farm. This is a classic tale of old Hollywood. Amazing cast, from Peter Mullen to David Thewlis to Michael Fassbender to Benedict Cumberbatch. Not Michael Fassbender. Sorry, Tom Hiddleston. These British actors. And just so many great performances here. Liam Cunningham and Eddie Marston. From start to finish, Toby Kebbell. It's a beautiful and wonderful story. It does lose some of the luster of the stage play because the whole entire thing was like, it was like a mechanical horse and like this artistic horse, and they're using like a real horse. So it kind of loses like the magic of what that was, but it still really hits. Number 24, and that's Indiana Jones and the Temple of Crystal Doom. Temple of Doom. I hate Willie. Hater guts. And it's a little insensitive in 2022, but still, plenty of adventure. Short Round is great. Boy, I love the fact that Ke Huy Quan is going to win an Oscar. That makes me so happy. But yeah, this is still an Indiana Jones film and still has the magic of Indiana Jones, unlike Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, which doesn't quite as much. And this is a little darker turn. It has some fun moments. It still holds up in some ways and not great in others. Then this is where things start to get real interesting as we go into number 23. These are all films that I think are legit, really great movies. And just there's so many of them. We have AI, artificial intelligence, which, do we need the ending part? This is an interesting amalgamation of Kubrick and Spielberg. This is an incredible story of artificial intelligence. Our relationship with technology. It's incredible to look at. Great performances by Haley Joel Osment and Jude Law. And this is a sprawling epic of a story that challenges us with so many deep and interesting themes. Number 22, The Sugarland Express, which was one of my new watches during this. And boy, Goldie Hawn's amazing in this. Ben Johnson, great in this. This is a crime thriller that there's plenty of amazing action in it. There's thrills. There's increasing tension throughout. This is some impeccable filmmaking by Steven Spielberg with this thriller. Next up, 21, we have The Lost World Jurassic Park, which I think this gets a lot of hate. Yes, there's some moments that stick out, like the gymnastics crap. But here's the thing, this is past the point of the magic of Jurassic Park and about the horrors of the horrible thing that humanity did bringing these back. And this is much more of a horror film. This is much more feeling like Crichton than Spielberg. And Spielberg's able to deliver an intense and thrilling ride. I think the third act was a bold choice. Does it always work for me? Not quite, but I think Goldblum here, losing the luster and being forced to grow as a character, I think is interesting. Julianne Moore's great. Vince Vaughn. Pete Postlewaite as this hunter. Incredible character. Such a great supporting character. Number 20, Amistad. And this is a film where it's like, yeah, it feels a little staged. It feels a little creaky, but the opening sequence of this film is devastating and intense and horrific and beautifully directed. All the courtroom scenes, like the cast in this, Matthew McConaughey, Morgan Freeman, and Anthony Hopkins, Stellan Skarsgård, and so many other great actors along the way. This is a film that has an important message, tells an important story. Dine Hansu absolutely kills it. He's an incredible turn here. Number 19, The Adventures of Tintin. This is a revolutionary film with motion capture performances, wonderful cast. Daniel Craig is such a great villain here. Andy Serkis is having a blast. This is a wonderful adventure film and really captures the spirit of Steven Spielberg so much. Number 18, The Post. And this is, quote-unquote, Oscar bait, but boy, does Steven Spielberg know how to make it great. You have Tom Hanks and Meryl Streep anchoring this film. Streep giving a really strong performance. This incredible cast of Tracy Letts and Bob Odenkirk and Matthew Rhys and so many others that fill out this cast, telling this important story, the importance of the media, and tackling the conspiracies and the corruption of the government. It's a very timely film. Number 17, Bridge of Spies, the birth of Mark Rylance as a world of a global star, a global actor, and he is fantastic in this film. Should he have beat Rocky? No. But Mark Rylance is great in this film. Tom Hanks is great. This Cold War conspiracy thriller. I think there's so many great things here. The Coens doing a little working up on the script. Spielberg directing, Hanks starring. What else could you ask for? Early on, TV film. How's this a TV film? Number 16 is Duel. This is an intense and thrilling ride. Oh man, this is something else. This is one of the best pure thrillers out there. If you haven't seen Duel and you want to go for a thrill ride, you best be ready, because that truck's going to terrify you. Number 15, Munich. This is an intense, dark outing from Steven Spielberg, Eric Bana, Jeffrey Rush. So many other great actors filling out. Daniel Craig is in this, Kieran Hines. It is a dark and just haunting tale of spies trying to take vengeance for the murders at the Olympics. And this Israeli tale is something else. It is dark and intense. It's not many Spielberg films are quite like it. Number 14, War of the Worlds. This is just an amazing adaptation of this novel from H.G. Wells. Steven Spielberg's able to capture so much horror and thrills throughout this film. The story of, Tom Cruise and his daughter, the lengths that he'll go to protect her, realizing that he has to be a real dad and not like a big brother goofball. And this is just something else when it comes to a film that, I think flew under the radar in that early 2000s era of Spielberg, but deserves your attention. Number 13, Lincoln. This is some of the best acting you're going to see from an incredible ensemble from Daniel Day-Lewis, giving an incredible turn as Abraham Lincoln, all the stories and all, and his power, and everybody else in this film from top to bottom, from John Hawkes to James Spader to David Strathairn to Bruce McGill to Tommy Lee Jones to Lee Pace, Michael Stuhlbarg, and so many other great actors tackling the U.S. political system in such a just engaging and poignant way. And the story of a man thrust with greatness thrust upon him and what he had to do the right thing. Number 12. This might be a little low for some people, but E.T. the Extraterrestrial. This is the quintessential family sci-fi film of all time. E.T. This is so quotable. It is so heartfelt. It is a beautiful film, shot perfectly. And just the story of this little alien just trying to go home is so inspiring and wonderful from start to finish. My number 11, Minority Report. Probably the most underappreciated film in Spielberg's filmography. This film is an incredible adaptation of Dick's ideas, and Tom Cruise is incredible in this film. There's plenty of emotion that he shows. He has the action down. Max von Sydow is such a fantastic supporting part of this. Samantha Morton giving such a unique and interesting performance. This is some of the best science fiction filmmaking of the 21st century. Make sure to go check it out. My number 10. We're in the top 10. We got Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Richard Dreyfuss is amazing. Francois Truffaut, amazing. This is a mysterious and haunting, in many ways, sci-fi film until the end, when it is pure hope and joy and wonder, and just thrusts upon us something so special. The special effects are just off the charts. Number 9, West Side Story. Spielberg made this movie better. I said it. This adaptation took the classic, amazing masterpiece and looked at the things that it could improve upon and did. The representation, the way that it handles, the direction. Spielberg's directing is impeccable. The cinematography from Kaminsky, and just the music with these actors, Rachel Zegler and Ariana DeBose and Ansel Elgort and Rita Moreno and everybody from top to bottom, this impeccable cast. This is one of the best musicals in the 21st century. Number 8, Catch Me If You Can. Leonardo DiCaprio is just energy, just delightful. This is the role of a lifetime for him that really set things off for him. Tom Hanks is fantastic as his foil. Christopher Walken gives one of his last great performances here. This is a story of a grifter who's really just trying to find a home and a life and a place to be welcomed. And it's a sad journey that brings two sad people together in the most unexpected ways. Number 7, The Fabelmans. This intimate and beautiful film about a young filmmaker falling in love with film and seeing the magic of cinema and his way of looking at the world with this lens and how he sees the world as a director was inspiring and impressive. This cast, Gabriel LaBelle gives a fantastic performance as Sammy Fabelman, Michelle Williams, Paul Dano, and Seth Rogen and Judd Hirsch. Everybody just firing on all cylinders. Number 6, Schindler's List. This is one of the most emotional cinematic experiences I've ever had in my life. This is a documentary style just peeking into the horrors of the Holocaust and the story of one man who must go on an amazing arc from war profiteer and womanizer to a savior of so many people. And Liam Neeson is incredible. Ray Fiennes is one of the most horrifying villains in the history of cinema. Ben Kingsley is so wonderful, and this is one of the most poignant films you'll ever sit through. Number 5, what Spielberg did for the Holocaust, Saving Private Ryan did for World War II, and this is one of the quintessential World War II films. Tom Hanks and the rest of this amazing cast anchor the humanity of the horrors of this war. The opening sequence is one of the hardest things to watch because it's so graphic and real and raw, and this is just an amazing thrill ride. Number 4, the greatest monster flick, or maybe not, one of the greatest monster flicks of all time. This is Jaws, this horror film from Steven Spielberg, who got around a shark that wouldn't work, building tension in the real way, anchoring by 3 amazing performers of Roy Scheider, Richard Dreyfuss, and Robert Shaw. These 3 actors, these 3 characters come together, and the humanity of it all is what makes this special. This is not a trashy monster flick. This is something deeply human and thrilling and horrifying, and the music, of course. My number 3, Raiders of the Lost Ark. Indiana Jones. This is the quintessential action adventure. The beats are iconic. The music is triumphant. Harrison Ford is the vulnerable hero that we all want. And from top to bottom, it's perfection. Number 2, Jurassic Park. This is the greatest monster movie of all time because it sees the wonder and the magic of these creatures being alive, but doesn't shy away from the horrors of the realities that your scientists asked if they could and didn't think if they should. The cast, the characters, from top to bottom, one of the greatest ensembles ever put to film. Some of the most interesting characters with so much depth and just flowing with ideas and themes. This is quite the film from start to finish. One of the greatest blockbusters of all time. And my number 1, and this is a very personal pick for me, what makes Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade better than Raiders? The father and the son. Harrison Ford, Sean Connery. The adventure is there. The technical aspects are there. The iconic moments are there from start to finish. But it's this relationship. We didn't need a romance. There's one, but we forget about it and don't care about it, because what's most important is a young man who never connected with his father finally being able to get his dad's approval and connecting in a mature and adult way. And that adds layers to an amazing adventure. And Sean Connery and Harrison Ford are 2 of my favorite father-son combos in the history of cinema, and that is why Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade is my number 1 film of Steven Spielberg. Yeah, there'll probably be a lot of films on here that people are like, what the hell? Leave your comments in the comments section. Let's talk some movies. Let's talk some Spielberg, and hopefully you'll go on this journey with me again with Carpenter, and I'll be back ranking all of Carpenter's films. You'll probably guess what my top 2 are. They're pretty easy, but there's some that I've never seen. Quite a few of them, some of the smaller ones, and I look forward to it. But thank you, as always, for tuning in and supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.